name of the Most High. Here's the ultimate in siege, which is what we're experiencing now, using North Carolina, the hurricane, to form a chaotic situation in the mountains of North Carolina, some of Tennessee. I'm not really sure how far it goes beyond that, but I have reports of a lot of violence, people that don't have water, people that don't have food, and they're needing to hunt that water, hunt that food, even if it's going to be, hunting fellow Americans. I mean, it won't take much longer. Then, on top of that, the U.S. government engineered longshoreman strike, which, by the way, I don't see any time soon of it letting up. I see that being as a part of the plan to disrupt the election, to make sure that there's enough chaos so that people can't really vote. All of this, of course, is the purpose of which is to keep Trump out of office. And they're even building statues of Trump now, like up in Vegas off the I-15, a giant naked statue, and designed to basically inject violence into the political races, so that people are understand that the American people are at war with the internal invasion. And it's kind of a multi-pronged approach to World War III. At the same time, we have them trying to blame the assassination attempts of Trump on Iran. Iran had nothing to do with it. So that's all lies. But then again, everything they say is a lie. So what ended up happening there is basically that's just ginned up by the U.S. government fell. I don't know exactly. I guess during the time of Obama, and certainly after Trump was, they had, jimmied the election their way, and they don't intend to give up power. They would rather go to World War III, nuclear World War III, and kill everyone on Earth than give up even any power to Trump. So even if Trump wins, and this is kind of a dire message because I'll be traveling at this point in late November. But even if Trump wins, they have no intention of seating him as president. So, and at the same time, the temperature of the people is basically one more thing, and it goes to gunfire. It's just not out war between the federal government and the people. I guess that's what it comes down to. And the federal government has the help of the Marxist army, which is all the minions that want to burn down the cities again and create the ultimate chaos, which the political leaders are applauding. As Kamala Harris said, they're not going to stop, and they shouldn't stop. As the reprobate Tim Walz says, I had to open my window to hear the sound of my city burning and the smell. It was awesome. So we left our windows open so we could hear and smell the devastation. They want a violent overthrow of the U.S. government and it never to come back. But it's not the U.S. government. It's the government versus the government's already been overthrown. And I've been meaning to say this for a long time. I'm not one of these people that believes in rehabilitation. I've always believed that since COVID at least, I can see that there's no way to you're fighting the whole world here. You're fighting all the governments and all the armies of the world. And what army does the people have? None. Yourselves. what army does Trump have? None. He has no way of the idea of deporting millions of people back to wherever they came from, and adjudicating their cases. How's he going to do that? The people are, the bureaucracy is against him. How would he be installed as president? What will happen between the election and January 20th? And they have no intention of letting the political, the J6ers go, because they engineered it. It was engineered by Nancy Pelosi, quarterbacked by her, but I mean, with the participation of the entire FBI, CIA, all of the agencies. And the idea was to create this diversion, create blame for everything going down the tubes on, right-wing MAGA people who are the most dangerous people, and I quote, "The most dangerous threat to the homeland are the MAGA movement." So MAGA has, by and large, are Christian, have Jesus, but there's nothing there in the way of, even if you took the veterans that would love to fight back and love to restore the country, you still don't have enough firepower to overthrow the UN, the U.S. federal government, the U.S. military. And the military has been shown that they've been working on this for a long time. They want to hire people that were willing to kill Americans if Americans won't give up their guns. I mean, you heard all this. But now we're in it, and now, unfortunately, my heart's going out to these people in North Carolina. I'm very sorry that they're the subject of an evil experiment at this point. Trying to see they're basically at an initial stage of creating chaos to see how far, what would happen to people if everything just gets shut off. And maybe they have to shut it all off before the election. So we've got that as a threat. And the silver lining, of course, would be if the global movement for individual freedom and freedom was understood around the world. I'm very surprised how many friends I have had and how many celebrities hate freedom and hate the USA. They'll make an excuse like it was stolen from the Indians or whatever, All lame. All faulty. They just don't want to lose their paychecks. So, their God is money, and that's what the celebrities worship. They don't care about you. That's why I've had to, whenever I see them on my feed or on my pages or on social media, I X them out. I reject them. I don't accept their friend requests. Even though, it'd be impressive to have a couple of celebtards as friends. No, I don't want them in my friend. I don't want them in my life because I don't live that way. I've had the opportunity to, to completely sell out and serve this global beast, this the beast system, the Antichrist, which is what it is. But there's just something in me that it just. Well, what is it exactly? Let's think about this. What is it in me that wanted to fight these people? I think it was abuse as a child, being molested and hurt against my will, I guess I could say that. That somehow made me not able to really have relationships with people, because you need relationships in order to to get by, just to be able to survive, get a job, have a place to live, raise children, whatever. Relationships lead to networking opportunities, and if you're damaged, as I had been, the first place that goes is relationships. So there's no ability to have a meaningful or an ongoing relationship. So therefore, you're derelict. You're just stuck. And I lived with that for a long time. I had become suicidal at times because I just didn't see a way forward for me. I just saw the future as being bleak. And then I realized, well, wait a second now. When I started doing the Zeph Report, I started to realize that even though in LA it felt like I was alone, fighting these gang stalking and, like, just to give you an idea, I was surveilling my own house, parked down the street. I see this car full of what looked like, cleaning women, Mexican cleaning women, Hispanic cleaning women. Stop the car, their car, get out and go into the house, like 6 of them. And then, I don't know what they did, but things were moved around, and I think cameras were put in there. They were doing an infrared thing from across the street, taking pictures. And every once in a while there'd be this like white van, So there was a definite feeling of being hunted by what I didn't know exactly. And I had, friends at the time that said, you're just going to have to understand, if you don't want to attract the hunting and, spying and evil tricks. And I said, well, it's evil. It's like, what about being poisoned in 1997? That and I'm still suffering from the consequences of that now. And various things, and they go, well, nobody can be that unlucky to have 100 things in a row go wrong, unless there's something to it. Yeah, well, there's black magic spells, basically death curses, to make sure that nothing, that any endeavor, anything I would work at would fail, and that I was. Obviously living in some kind of dream world or a fantasy world, thinking I could go forward with writing or, with my chosen endeavor, which was, I guess, screenwriting at the time. And, I think the only reason that I have succeeded there was because I just overwhelmed them with one script after another. You know what I mean? I just kept putting my nose to the grindstone. In fact, at one point, a friend said, would you stop writing the scripts? They're not going to look at them. Why? Because of you. Me? What did I do? What did I do wrong? And, the answer is, I came to LA to find out, what were the circumstances of my leaving. My main question is, the things that I kind of wrote about in society, I wondered, or that what I experienced, what I ended up writing about, I wondered, was that true? They made me sign a thing to get out of the hospital where I said it was not true. There were no people there at the house that night. There was not I thought it was basically that they were just going to kill me. And hence that prompted the, army. All I had was like a butcher knife out of the kitchen versus I don't know how many people were there. Probably many cars had pulled up in the alley, and, they were locking themselves in various rooms, and here I was stuck. I held them off till the dawn, and then in came the ambulance attendants, strapping me down to the gurney, and then out I went with the neighbors, even out on their lawns looking. They were there ahead of time watching me get put into the ambulance, and then they took me to a private hospital into the ICU section where I saw 3 kids I knew, and they were there. I don't know why they were there. But there was, it was like, what are you doing here? And it's like, I'm here to help you. At one point, I knew it was phony when they offered me I was like 17, I guess. When they offered me they said, you want to stay here in the ICU? Or, if you this one guy that was taking me to a visit with my parents. He said, "Well, here's the deal. I can take you to West Hollywood right now, but into a brothel situation. So that would be, and then you'll be left alone once you go into that endeavor. And so that deal's been made if you want it. And if you don't want it, well, it's good luck. You're going to suffer." So I didn't want to go into that. I didn't feel, to be honest with you, I didn't feel I could even succeed at that. I felt like such a failure at that time. And again, I was being, pushed very, very soon to a very serious suicide attempt. Because, you can't, I guess what the deal is with people that become prominent or elite or whatever is that if your kids act up, you got to get rid of them. Kill them. Right? You can't have people blabbing about, obviously, pedophilia, rape, assault, and murder, as murders are going on all the time. So you can't have your mind. You can't speak your mind, and if you do, then you wind up being sequestered. And then what they did with me is they, after my serious suicide attempt, I wasn't ever going to come back to LA anyway, and they just figured, okay, so they put out a rumor that I was dead. Yes, my loving family, okay? They put out the rumor that I was dead to cover themselves from blowback, from being harassed, from being hurt, from being cut off from society. And, then that's how I got an idea. And note that this was at a very young age where I could see the way the system worked. And most of the kids were like, okay, so you see the way the system works. What are you going to do? Fight the whole world? This is the world system. So what are you going to do? I'm saying you can't just go around raping and murdering kids just for fun and games. There has to be some kind of integrity here. It can't just be all based on lies. And so that was my education as to the, I heard it said, well, if you were just a derelict on the streets, you would have picked that up. Saying, yeah, but a lot of the derelict on the streets that do not want to be slaves wound up dead. Homeless populations they rounded them up here and they rounded up in LA in 1984. They rounded them up before the Olympics, so they could present a clean LA city. But anyway, LA, as a history lesson, has been corrupt in the sense that, the competing interests between Hollywood, the mob, and the corporatocracy, the global corporatocracy, big business, okay, was a confluence that really coalesced and showed in the 1940s just how corrupt the whole city was and how corrupt you had to be if you wanted to get things done in that city. So, by the time I was 18, it seemed like I understood the entire system. I understood about the human trafficking. And then later on that was reinforced by evidence. So I was shown that again when I returned to LA. It was like a mystery. It's like, well, what happened to me? I was willing to take the hit and say I was sick. Obviously, I was paranoid. I was maybe hearing things. Maybe I'm a schizophrenic. Who knows? But it's my fault. It's, none of this stuff happened. It was all my own fantasy imagination. And that's what they wanted me to believe. And if I believed that, they would, help me limp along until I finally had the great the great awakening aha moment where I said, oh, I got to join you guys. But I had been, the damage that had occurred to me, though, inside had crippled me from relationships. So there was no way that I could, give myself to that reality because I just didn't trust people. It's not just trust, like a mental thing. It's like I had a repulsion when it came to people. I mean, it's like I just wanted to. People had hurt me. People were for no reason at all attacking. And so, it became quite elaborate. I mean, pretty soon you realize that, what I realized, which was in what we call gang stalking back before, it was citywide. It was also worldwide. If you try to go anywhere, they're already ahead of you. Like later I came back as an adult and I'm trying to figure it out and take a trip to the islands for, I think it was a writing seminar or something. And the bartender goes, we know who you are. We got eyes on you, So they track. And what's the reason? Because you're not ranked in their system. So they're going to worry about you. And they're going to worry what you're going to do because you're not predictable. And they're going to track you. And along with that, they're going to try to ruin your life and ruin every opportunity so that you will be led, step by step to suicide, and it will be all your fault. I know a lot of people that committed suicide, not just my daughter, but she couldn't handle it either, and she had known the whole truth about society, and then she rejected it. And because she realized that it was either God or society, they will not tolerate God in society. Billy Graham may have been allowed, but not you. Gee, why is that, Professor? And then you learn, what the truth really is, and you understand that it's a lot more than just expected social training and social norms, anything from setting the table to, secret rituals to whatever, all of which are meant to diminish the individual and bind and boost up the collective. And today, in America, we simply have the metastasizing of the very same system, identical, that destroyed Los Angeles, that destroyed DC, that destroyed America, and now it's destroying lives. Suicide rates are through the roof, and but the same thing is going for the only people that really seem to be not bothered are celebrities, again, who have decided that they're on the side of the corporatocracy to destroy and to kill and to do maximum harm to the people or to people who don't see it their way, who may disagree and not want to be part of a collective that's run by witchcraft and Satanism, and right, and because that's the world. So that's it. And it's not about light at the end of the tunnel. There is no light at the end of the tunnel. It is the satanic world system, period. That's it. There is no other system. You can be separated by Jesus, but then you'll be a target. You get the same persecution that I'm talking about when I was a kid, but I didn't understand. And that's why I had to return to LA to find out what happened. And that eventually prompted me when I got into kind of a bad shape there and I was having panic attacks and I was having trouble coping with day-to-day life that I took this writing class and the first thing I did when I got out of there, I started, sneaking around, writing, because I'd written one script in this class, kind of a sci-fi, sort of a Mad Max kind of thing, a dystopian sci-fi. and it got optioned by a producer out of USC. So I was obviously on a roll. Obviously, I'd always been a writer though. I'd written lots of one-act plays, poetry. Whenever I was in trouble, I was a very troubled youth. I would always resort to poetry and different kinds of writing to find some comfort. And, probably kept me from killing myself. Because it's like, the feeling is, well, I don't want to bother you guys, and I'm sorry that I am such, I'm a mistake. How about I just kill myself and get out of here? And then you won't have to be bothered with me anymore. And, they weren't like, oh, no, don't do that. It's like, yes, well, that's an option. And then later I found out, well, I'm not the freak here. I'm not the liar. I'm not the pervert. I'm not the criminal. I'm not the life hater. I'm not the conniver. I'm not the forked tongue. I'm not, in the hive mind collective and have no mind of my own like 90% of the people have. I'm just an individual who got lost. And I can see, world, how you treat somebody who's young and lost because you're worried they're going to spill the beans. So you got to kill them. Best to make it look like they did it themselves. Now that is the best rendition you're going to hear, I think, subjective rendition of the way things are. That's the way things are, whether you're a plumber in, Tonopah, or a high-powered executive in the Mid-Wilshire district of LA. It doesn't really matter. It's the same, shit stem, the same system. And they don't leave you alone, that's the thing. And then they expect, they're like, well, you're young and stupid, you can at least put out sexually. Well, not if you've been damaged. My own sex was basically, my own urges were basically to kill myself, to do great harm to myself, to be self-destructive. That's apparently what excited me. And no way to have a relationship with that. You can't have relationships if that's your head, if that's where you're at. And then they accuse you of being aloof, and you don't settle down, and you have all these opportunities, but you don't take them. And it's like, no, I'm damaged. Could I get fixed? Well, apparently not. So go ahead and kill yourself. You mean you'd rather see me dead than try to fix myself? Yes. We'd rather see you dead than try to fix anything. And so hence I became, quite addled with drugs and anything to escape. But when I finally figured it out, I would write, like I said, I wrote the society script. I was hiding it because I felt deep down I was going to get in trouble. Because remember, I had years of brainwashing where they were telling me nothing like that happened. There were no people there. Well, you sign this release form, this affidavit thing that says that there were no people there. You're not hallucinating, Your parents have testified there was nobody there, that you're making it all up, and that means you're crazy. You're psychotic. So we can't let you go until you relinquish that idea that there were people there that night and that you held them off with a knife. So at that point, all the clues were there, but I guess I really woke up when I was, the Script Society got picked up for production and got funded, and were working on some rewrites, and I was there all throughout all the rewrites and all the collaboration. People say, well, you weren't there. I was there every day. And finally, I was working with Brian Usna in a room in the house I had. I was going through a divorce, and she had moved out, first marriage, and I was just left there alone. And the phone rang, and it was a gal that used to my parents after I got removed from LA. They bought another house and moved. They moved up into a higher class neighborhood. They got a reward for getting rid of me. And it really literally is just like that. Anyway, she was working for my mother, and also was a tennis teacher in town, and she was a working girl, and she was doing a part-time thing, helping a friend of hers out in the casting department. And then she called me. She said, I just read the script. Yeah, and meanwhile, Brian's in the other room waiting for me to return. And I said, yeah. And she goes, it's all true. And I've seen the Polaroids of, all the children, the orgies and the children. And I'm like, this is the kind of stuff you get killed over. You know what I mean? So I kind of freaked out because I had convinced myself by that time that I was just full of it. I was crazy. I was willing to go with them that none of this stuff exists. I was willing to take the same standpoint as if you see the Dark Side of Society when it comes out, you'll see there are people there that don't buy it in the beginning. One being a director, another prominent director, and he says it's a mind virus. All these accusing people of having satanic rituals and cutting throats and killing people. There's no evidence. It's satanic panic that happened in the 80s. And the problem with that theory is that I didn't do research. I was there, but I had to blot it out of my mind in order to get discharged from the psychiatric facility, and and then after that, after hearing that, and then I told Brian, I said, I just got this call. She said, it's all true. This is all real. And, what the fuck is going on here? And he said, I'll pull the production. I don't want to see you get hurt. And I'm like, what? And so that's kind of where we went. And then I was chasing around this girl from Italy, and that became Francesca's mother. And, I visited her and then came back right when we started filming Society. And by the time I got back, I had reconvinced myself that it was just, it couldn't have been real. Look, they had me in the hospital. They had me under treatment. They had the family meetings. They were having, the official word from the official system is, none of that's real. You're out of line. And if you want to try to get back into society or have something to do with your life, you're going to have to admit that you were wrong. And things like that don't exist. And they were taking the tactic that that was all, it was a pretty popular topic at the time, I think, in movies and television and stuff. So I think they were thinking I was influenced with that. And, influenced by, films like Rosemary's Baby and things like that. And I'm like, no, this really, it's just comes down to how prominent do you want to be. If you want to be very prominent, then, what are you going to do for the system? Where are you going to volunteer your time? What are you going to help to achieve? And the system wants to go where it is today. Where it is today is where it wanted to go back then. And if you help aid and abet it to go there, then you will be rewarded. And, then they tell you, don't commiserate with the world, with people in the world. Just hang around your own privileged few. Don't ever notice that, like, celebrities are always hanging around celebrities. They're never really on their own, having their own lives. Because sooner or later, the decision has to come, Are you really going to go all the way to the end and destroy your soul for money and fame? Is that what you're going to do? Is that what this is all about? And yes, that's what this was all about. Unfortunately, not everybody that sells out into it or participates in the rituals, which is, I mean, the rituals are like not so ordered like, the official Satan thing. You can have people get together at a party and have sex, and that could be a ritual, or they could have sex and it may not be. You know what I mean? It just all depends. It's interesting. I remember when my friend took credit. Well, we're not friends anymore, really, but I mean, he took credit for a guy crashing his car on the freeway. And we were going under the underpass of where it happened, and he wanted to stop and take a look at it and say, they had done some kind of spell on this guy. And he crashed right on cue. And so that's what's behind the entire thing. Or like if you look at Girl Next, which is a film that's got everything in it, basically the clown, Satan, the beast, is what's behind it all. And when you try to look and find out what it is, you see a reflection of yourself. Because inherent in the fall in the garden comes the internal fall. We are fallen within. So not participating when invited into their rituals, into their hunting clubs, into their beach clubs, into their, guilds, into their little, cocktail party groups. Not participating, not giving yourself over to the collective is a sin punishable by death. So a lot of people, they don't understand what's going on, and they feel like they're being pressured to do something. They don't know what it is. And they run from it because they feel like they're under siege. And, and then later on they go, well, why? So that's all it was? Yeah, it's basically in the Bible, if you want to read about it. Be sober, be vigilant, because the devil, the enemy, wanders about like a roaring lion looking for who he can devour. Nobody wins the game. I just saw a guy that threw black magic curses on me through the mail because we had rejected him. And now he's got a Give, Send, Go page, and he, looks. I mean, he looks like he's on the verge of death, and he's immobile, in a wheelchair, going through these experimental cancer treatments, trying to cure himself. And I really felt sorry for him. I felt sorry that he did that to me. And I had to give that to the Lord. See, it still stings, when someone launches bad energy at you, and then you just, at the very least, you feel bad. Or something bad can happen to you. I like to say that every curse thrown is a death curse. Every curse should be treated like a death curse. Even a love potion, all of it. But that's the system our world works on. And people that participate in it don't have elaborate rituals or elaborate, routines they do. It's all just part of the ether. They just fit in and know what to do and participate, whether they're going to be a witness or they're going to, go lie to a grand jury, or they're going to go move someone's mail away from their door to some other location so that person has to go out and knock on someone else's door. Any little thing like that. And when people get onto it, then they call that gang stalking. And now that it's gone worldwide, now that it's what I always said it was. I was on the air for 20 years saying that it's everything, everywhere, all the time. I proved it. I proved it. Proved it. I was ahead and beyond all the other talk show people. I didn't contest them because I never felt that confident. It was like, we shouldn't have a head full of pride. But so now people are, admitting this. That, it's like, okay, so when somebody is being followed or being tracked or whatever now, it's on this global scale. You know what I mean? And it's everywhere. They can go to Canada or the North Pole or Paris or Dubai. It doesn't matter. The same thing will follow them. You know, they tried to run, tried to hide, break on through to the other side. Well, you know, not everybody can break on through the other side. Not everyone is meant to. We're not all the same. And to hell with these rock groups that had to sing all these lyrics that were like, we're all the same, we're all one. Won't you just give in and give up? You know what I mean? It's like, no. Some people are reluctant to give their soul over in exchange for having, you know, for not being harassed. So in my case, it was like, well, how does the harassment, you know, internal and external stop? It's like, well, you know, you're going to have to tip your hand to the world situation. Well, that would mean today we'd have to bow down to the whole cool Marxist thing. U.S., you know, hate the U.S., no borders at all, worldwide. White people all suck, they should all die, all be aborted, and it's all their fault. And this is just the same collective. It's the same satanic beast system that's now metastasizing for all to see. And look at them. Look at them. They're still bowing down to it now that you can see them bowing down to it. And they proudly bow down. I'm not going to have a problem. I'm going to get me a paycheck. I'm going to give me some fame and fortune. But there's always going to be Elijah. There's always going to be John the Baptist. There's always going to be Jesus. Right? That thorn in the side. There's always going to be God. There's always going to be the Creator who wants that obedience to himself and not to idols that can neither speak nor do anything. They pray to these images of celebtards. I've gotten to the point where I'm going to have to, you know, really inspect myself and, you know, like that guy that wound up in the hospital, I prayed for him that Lord would touch him to be well, that I was, you know, forgive the death curses he sent in the mail. And it had like all kinds of witchy scrawl on it, you know what I mean? Just, it was awful. But I let it go. I'm like, you know, all the people around this guy who are giving him money and stuff, they don't realize who he really is. But, you know, his attitude is, well, if you're not going to join me in helping me to get where I want to go, then to hell with you. And fuck you. You need a death curse. I said, well, not everybody is cut out to be a Satanist. Even if you knew the ropes, even if they said, okay, I want you to throw up here on cue, or I want you to, you know, to masturbate on cue. I want you to go, you know, kill that child on cue, or I want you to go do something, you know, to prove your loyalty, right? Usually. Even with that kind of thing, the trust is not there unless it's real. Like, okay, he did participate, but do we really trust him? Not really. Uh-oh, the plane crash. Who's on that? He's on the plane. Oh, well, I guess that's the end of that. They didn't trust him even after he did what they told him to do. Now, the whole point of music and entertainment is to mock God. But God, well, as it says in Galatians, God is not mocked. What we sow, so shall we reap, period, for all people. And that would include all people who sow to the devil are going to pay. And I believe this nuclear war and this chaos in the mountains, and, you know, the fact that the administration says they're not going to do anything to help. They're going to let the chaos reign and let people just kill each other. All that horror being caused by them is, you know, in a sense, payback for the preponderance of people deciding to serve the devil in the guise of being a Christian in Western civilization. Naturally, they got rid of the books. Naturally, they had to get rid of the books that were the foundation of Western civilization, Thomas Aquinas, even philosophers, Plato and Aristotle, and and the rest of them, and all the Bible and all that. It's all thrown out. But unless you've had that, that paranoia can go something like this. You can be walking down the street and all of a sudden everyone on the street turns on you and kills you. Because they're in the hive mind, they all get that message at the same time. They're being orchestrated like puppets. Killed, the target, boom. Okay, target, take it out. Okay, all you people get your rent paid this month. So it's the mob, it's the real mafia. And nobody would really tell me. I had to figure out the whole thing. And then when I got on the air in 2002, and I listened to all these talk show hosts, because now the podcast is coming out. Remember the Podfather and all that? None of them would say the truth. Not one. Then I finally got a confession out of a couple of them. They said they're not going to tell the truth. They don't want to be seen with people like us. They don't want us interfering. They want us off the air. They don't want us on the air. They don't want people to figure this out. Because basically what they figure out is you've signed on to your own doom, to your own murder. You've signed on to letting your own blood spill and run out. You've signed on to a complete, total disaster of a life that's meaningless. I was hearing one of the singers, I think it was Post Malone or, Austin, whatever his name is. He was saying the main thing he wanted to be growing up was a musician, and then now he just wants to be a dad, and his big hope is that his kid will respect him when he passes, when he dies. And I feel like saying, you won't really be aware of that when you die, buddy. It's you and the Lord, not you, your kid, and the Lord. But you can't know that because you're surrounded with stupid people. So then who can do anything? What happened to the education? What happened to teaching people the simple lesson of, what you sow, so shall you reap? What about, God is not mocked? What about the fact that there are consequences to the way you lead your life? And, these sort of pop stars and rock stars, they're not getting off scot-free. They got to sow to the devil in order to get that fame and fortune. So, now here we go again. And it's just, it's really tragic because, when it goes nuclear, it's going to be like billions of people dead. And at least there'll be a couple people that know why. But most people are in denial, and they're covering it up. They're not equating that bad behavior on the part of the United States and people that are in the United States and selfish behavior and idolatry will lead to destruction. They're never going to admit that. They're going to say that, if you people repent, God will have favor on us. And that's the only way it's going to be. We're going to get out of this mess. Well, who's going to repent? I'll tell you when they'll repent. They'll repent when there's no water and no food. And when they're sick and dying. They'll repent when cannibalism comes back. They'll repent with the horror of war and foreign armies are just going up and down the street killing people. The horror is so great, they'll finally realize they've been on the wrong side. And you know where you got to start? Apologizing to all the people that you hurt and mocked and laughed at because they didn't know what you were talking about. You thought you had that inside track and everybody was stupid, and they're not. They were moral. They were honoring their temple, honoring their walk, honoring their soul. And then you come along and, call them all whatever, deplorables, and they all need to be killed, right? Well, there's no killing that's going to go on that's going to be just contained to one group or another. It's going to be everybody. So I hope that my lament is I was on the air 22 years warning people about this very thing, that you're going to have to, there's two sides, and the one side is God, and then people are like, well, I'll wait till it gets really bad, then I'll switch sides. I don't have any more to really say about it. I just, I'm really sorry that the propaganda is so big that people look at the wealthy in society and they don't think there's anything wrong. It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get into heaven. You know why that is? Because they worship Satan in the form of the idol of money. And when you do that, you ensure that your soul is going to be trashed. And it won't even be your decision. You'll say, well, I've got to get right with the Lord. And that day will never come. That day will never come because it's never been up to you. Not 1 minute of your miserable existence is up to you. Or up to me. Things happen. And they happen fast. And so I've got to, as they say, keep oil in your lamps, keep your eyes on the Lord, and we're going to go into what needs to be done for the people that have been on the path, have taken the persecution, taken the hits, have been helpful, have been loving to others, have been supportive, have prayed for their enemies, and gotten nothing but punched in the mouth every day because of it. Well, now that it's going off the cliff, I guess the thing to do would be to got to keep your eyes on the Lord. The litmus test is this, folks. Can you be alone? Can you be alone and in silence and feel like you're not alone? Because when you abide in Jesus, you get this feeling like you're not alone, like you get comfort. And you get forgiveness. I'm not sure how many people are going to be understanding this. And I'm just not sure what's going to happen. It looks like the powers that be are trying to be as destructive as they possibly can. So I don't know if I'm going to put this up. I think I'm just trying to explain that whatever my life has been since, early childhood, it's not like anybody ever just sat me down and said, this is the way it is. They said, you can see the way it is, now adapt. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. To me, life is horror. To me, life is brutal. It's, obviously unfair. And people are very, very angry, and they're ready to kill. They'll be guided to kill each other rather than kill the real enemy. But, that's what always happens. So I don't know. I mean, now that I've been through this whole thing, and God has asked me, well, how'd it go? It went great. I found out the truth, Lord. I found out that I was right the whole time, and that I wasn't crazy. I took their point of view on, called myself crazy, signed their document, whatever they want. I was just trying to exist. But when people have trouble with relationships and things, they call you a borderline personality, and they really get upset with that one. They go, oh, that's really serious. Because that means, and then what do? They do the MDMA therapy, they do ayahuasca, they do all these therapies to get you to lower your barriers so they can get inside you. And they use sex to get in, but then there's infinite space to explore within you as each sector of you is taken over and enslaved. Ha! Yes. To do the bidding of the beast. And a lot of people think it's cool. Like, you see people like Jack Black out there, Rock and Roll High School, how he's saying, you really got to work to the devil. You may conjure the devil, but the devil might not show up. There's another satanic movie I saw about rock, and took place at the Whiskey. It had Malcolm McDowell in it. And they ended up killing some kid, to become rock stars. And it worked. Well, it's like, that's the initiation. It's like a gangland initiation. Me, I have my pen. The pen is mightier than the sword. And I have some real gems coming up. I've got a really interesting movie I'm going to actually make. I'm going to direct it. Of a screenplay that really, will get into the a lot of the subtleties of how we relate to one another. I know one thing, they always get on this thing about, don't be a goody two-shoes. And fact of the matter is, people following the Lord are not goody two-shoes, but they're not going to participate. Having a piece of a tomato. Very good. They're not going to participate. Because they know if they do, what happened? They got a second chance to straighten up their life, to live for something greater than themselves, to truly live for love. And the odds, at that point, it's kind of hard to just throw that away because you want a season of sin. Because you just want to tear it up. Because you're just frustrated and you're just going to tear it up. Then you're going to come back and beg for mercy. Lord, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to blaspheme you. I didn't mean to say fuck you to you, Lord. But I did. Please help me get back on my feet. I don't care what they think. I don't need to ever talk to them again. To say that groups of people are dangerous. Peer pressure is dangerous if they goad you into doing something you otherwise wouldn't do. It can happen to any of us. It takes 30 seconds for my mind to wander into some place it shouldn't be. And then, days of distraction and sinning, and you can almost justify it all. And say, well, I was put here in this world, what do you expect me to do? I don't want to be some kind of freak, but the devil hasn't really done enough for me. God's done nothing for me. So now I got the devil and God, fuck you both. It's my life, I'm going to live it the way I want. And right now, I just want to be a vigilante. No, nobody can say fuck you to God. I just did, I mocked it, but of course I don't mean that, Lord. I don't mean that. I'm just saying that's what we end up doing. Fuck the devil, fuck God, fuck the system. I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'm going to lie if I have to. You know, they tell me not to fornicate, I'll fornicate all day long. I'll fornicate, I'll open up a million holes in my soul and let them all fly in and take over. And then maybe I'll do something really naughty. You know, so there's the spirit of rebellion that comes into people, and they get empowered really to worship themselves. And the next, you know, and it can take a person years after an incident like that, after being that frustrated, to come back to the fold. There isn't love in the world. They don't love you. They're just, you're stuck like they're stuck, so they have a camaraderie with you. But that's not love. Found myself praying for my one-time friend that sent these death curses. And I found myself praying to God to heal him. And it's disturbing what happened to him. You know, obviously there are consequences in life. And, you know, I'm sorry that it came to that. But, I mean, that was pretty predictable. You know, you live by lies. Eventually it's going to come back and bite you in some other form, like cancer. So it's up to you, you know. Like I say to people, it's up to you. It's like, you know, now I'm old. And, you know, I have mobility issues myself. You know, I can't walk, for example, normally. And I have, you know, challenges, heart, lungs. It's hard to get a breath sometimes, and it's just a terrible downgrade of, you know, and along with that goes a lot of naughtiness I might have participated in. It just doesn't happen because, you know, you know, there's the thing called ageism where you become invisible. And they don't see you, and they don't really want you involved in their little thing or whatever it is. And I don't really want to be involved. I'm just, you know, trying to be helpful on this earth while I still have time. I just want to serve the Lord, you know, joyfully and not, you know, in misery. But I did figure out, look, I am very satisfied. When I did the documentary, the person that used to be Woody Keith, me, became Zeph E. Daniel. They became merged, and now everything is merged, all my projects, everything. That's a healing. And so I had to look at what happened back then in order to come to peace with it, and I believe God, you know, healed me in that regard, you know, from the trauma of, well, I guess the trauma of being hurt and rejected for no reason that you could come up with. You know, that you didn't understand what happened. So you're, you know, running away from something there's no need to run away from. Right? There's no need to run away from the devil. There's no need to run away from God. There's no need to run away from anything. I fear no man. And, you know, when you get to that point, that's a healing. Not letting things push you all over the place and, you know, influence you and make you feel bad. And then when you feel bad, you don't do anything. I know I don't. I'm in a state of inertia. Well, let's see if we can get a boost off this. I hope it helps. I give the little bit of testimony out every once in a while to remind myself of where I came from and how quickly I've gone through a healing and how long it took before I integrated my personality. It took, I don't even want to, it's hard to even say, but I mean, it's, you know, integrated the last few years, but before that I was just like split. There was this person and then there was this person, and, you know, never the twain shall meet, and now the twain is met, and everything is, as I would say, normal in a person. You're a singular person. You were this, then you changed your name, you were that. You did this, then you did that, then you did this, in a timeline with continuity that makes sense. But I will tell any aspiring writer out there, if you want to write something and be known as a writer, you're going to have to dig into that trauma. Everyone's got it. That's the thing. Some people gave into the world and then repented and came out of it, and it's even harder for them because they know why they're being persecuted. But whatever the reason is, this is a call to joy and love and free of strife while we try to figure out how to help our brothers and sisters that are being used now as an experiment by the U.S. government, which I think is, horrible. And with that, I bid you shalom.
When you're not looking, when you think you'll get away with it again. Your fate is sealed. Your fate is sealed. We're gonna fight for freedom, and we don't care if we die. Oh yeah! Underestimate us. You underestimate us.
We sit in the sun and wait. We sleep and we dream. Each of us dying slowly in the prison of our